since Trump is tariffing our allies. See, I'm not an enemy of the West. In the United Nations, I want all nations, including the European nations, to be permanent members of the Security Council. I believe Britain wants that. I believe France wants that. I believe Russia wants that. I believe China wants that. As five permanent members, America stands alone. America doesn't want to share the limelight as a world sole superpower. America wants to peg the world to our currency and then muscle the permanent members, meaning Britain, France. America wants to muscle them because ever since World War II, they've been there for the ride while America's been calling the shots. After World War II, Britain and France were there for the ride as permanent members. They had to do what America told them to do. They had to jump up through loops, jump through loops, jump up, jump down, lay down, play dead, roll over. You know, like a trained dog. That's what America did to Britain and France after World War II. In other words, they weren't in a position to order America in the New World Order. And America set up everything for its own interests to be the dictatorial ruler over the world. Impunic. The unimpugned, immune, indispensable as they call it, world hegemonic. Hegemonic is close to demonic as a dictatorial rule over the rest of the world. So even the Western Alliance is left out in the code. The rest of Europe is left out in the code. Eastern Europe and as well as Western Europe. Because America wants to be the most unimpugned nation on earth. To be the dictatorial rulers of the world. Ever since the conclusion of World War II, America wants to dominate the world with impunity. So even Britain and France were in no position to argue with America. America made the World Bank, the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, the World Trade Organization, the Bank of Settlements, the SWIFT systems, the Moody's systems. And America wants to keep the whole world enslaved with 100% tariffs under Trump. The good old boys. The conservative right wing of America. Close to the alt-rights, if you ask me. Where there's fine peoples on both sides. A little bit of too much white supremacy over minorities. But this president, this gluttony, wants to tariff the global third world. 100% of tariff. That means if the third world regions, the poorest nations, have 100% tariff, that means it's a starvation tactic, like they did Cuba. You know, all the nations on earth voted to lift the embargo on Cuba when it came to food. That Cuba deserves to have a food economy. They deserve to feed themselves. They don't deserve rations of food. So unanimously, all the nations on earth voted to lift the embargo. And only this one demonic power kept the embargoes on and defied the whole world. And kept the embargoes on Cuba. Now, I always said that Cuba deserves a food economy. In other words, they deserve to walk into a store and have a variety of foods like Walmart. You ever shopped in a Walmart food market? Or Save-A-Lot? Or one of those American food stores? You know how when you walk in there, there's a good variety of food that you can eat and pick from? When you go food shopping? Well, I always said Cuba deserves to have that at least when it comes to lifting the embargoes. That they shouldn't be on food rations being starved to death as a genocidal economic weapon. Y'all shouldn't starve them because they're humans. And I don't believe in starving people. So 99% of the world's nations voted to lift the embargo, but this one demonic power said no. And you gotta understand, this one demonic power wants to tariff the third world 100% with this type of weapon, the American Reserve petrodollar. They use it as a weapon to starve the poorest nations on earth. 100% tariff inflicted for the love of Trump. While Trump is in the stock exchange, looking at his vanity on Time magazine, thinking that he's going to tariff the world into submission, floating his world liberty crypto in the hopes that Elon can pump and dump at up and down cycles, so he can skim money into blue chip companies while he leaves his investors in crypto left with nothing. A great pump and dump, up and down cycles, using Murdoch's news outlets to launder his money with bots of Elon supercomputers into blue chip companies for he could walk away from the presidency as a fat cat while he extorts our allies, European allies, in tariff wars. And while he tries to starve the third world with 100% tariffs, just to maintain the gluttony of America's greed on the world stage. So I'm even fighting for the liberty of Western Europe, not with Trump's world liberty, but I want all nations to sit down equally at the table of the global order. I want all nations equally to sit down at the table of global order. I refuse for this one demonic nation to rule over the world with impunity, as Washington pagans. I refuse this hypocritical nation that always brags about liberties and freedoms, but in reality is a shindig. Because after World War II, America made the world-based rules as a monopoly for themselves with their superpower weapon of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And America made the world-based rules to this very day as veto of the 3 permanent members. But the rest of Europe is going along for the ride because they live under captivity of this one hegemonic power. Even Britain and France are not in a position to question America, even to this day. Within the permanent members, Britain and France are submissive partners when it comes to the 3 veto powers. And they have to do what America wants them to do when it comes to foreign policies. So America still has a monopoly on the world stage. And America is the one dictatorial ruler over the rest of the nations on earth. Is that fair? No, it's not. America is the most dictatorial, hegemonic global order that you will ever see in your damn lives as human beings. And I'm here to free the rest of the world, including the Western Alliance. So this gluttony of muck that you call Trump is terrifying all of our allies like a gangster, like Alphonse Capone, tossing rocks into your merchant sovereign nation economies, tariff rocks, to break your windows as your sovereign merchant economies of your sovereign nations. And he's telling y'all, if y'all pay me tariffs, I'll make sure that your windows won't get broken. And then he's floating world liberty for pump and dump with Elon through his supercomputers, trying to be like Bitcoin, which I am outlawing in the United Nations any individual or businesses being able to crypto their currencies. That belongs to the sovereign nations and their central banks to issue crypto. It doesn't belong to individuals, Ponzi schemers, grifters, con artists, doing things that they don't have no official capacities to do, Supreme Court justices. So not only are these nations like Canada, Britain, France, Germany are going to seek reparations, financial reparations on Trump, and not only are they going to extradite him to stand trial in their countries, but if all the nations on earth have to dry up the stock exchange for no more liquidity because of the outrageous gluttony of this dictatorial country on planet Earth, if the rest of the world has to unite to teach America a lesson, well, that's exactly what they have to do. And the best way to do that is charity starts at home. Dry up the stock exchange, disappear the binary codes. Yeah, the stock market is going to panic. They're gonna flicker the panic button and stop and cancel the stock exchange in the hopes that when they flicker the button on, that somehow it's going to be stabilized. No. When they flicker the panic button in the stock exchange, when they turn that computer on, it's going to be 0 accounts, 0 stocks, 0 treasury bills, 0 investors. And that liquidity would dry up like a desert. Call it global warming. Call it what you want. Call it gluttony of greed of Trumpery. Call it what the hell you want. But America's going to learn the hard way. Because until their bureaucrats are vetted out from government, until America learns it's gone down the wrong path, when America learns that they shouldn't subvert the rest of the world, that they should allow every nation to be equally, when it comes to making the world-based rules, when it comes to affording and according the world laws, the global order. Every nation has their rightful place at the table as permanent members with equal votes, of all nations having their own sovereign equal votes. So if I got to teach these bullies in Washington how to congeal, how to evolve into the new world order, then I will do it. And they're going to learn the hard way. They're going to learn the hard way until they humble themselves to know that they're only one nation on earth and they have to respect the rest of the nations as equally. Treat people the way you want to be treated yourselves. So I will say that to y'all politicians. Treat other nations the way y'all want to be treated yourselves. But until that day comes, y'all going to learn the hard way. So I want all nations not only to hold Trump accountable for his tariff wars, but with his business, world liberty Ponzi scheme, with his business racketeering to extort our allied nations with world liberty cryptos and using Elon's bots computers to launder his crypto into blue chip companies while he leaves his cyber currency investors holding debt of bankruptcy, because that money will disappear. That crypto money, he will pump and dump it with up and down cycles, boom and bust. And he will launder it with Elon into blue chip companies in the hopes that when he steps down out of office, that he'll be a fat cat on Wall Street. So for that not to happen, I am initiating that all the nations of our allies in Europe that he tariff, Canada, Japan, South Korea, France, Germany, Brexiting Britain with Farage, all of y'all are to hold Trump accountable with reparations. There won't be no insurance bond companies that will be able to afford his get out of jail free card for his little monopoly game. And if y'all got to dry up the stock exchange when he's on the White House tariffing y'all, dry up the stock exchange. Make it into a desert. Let that computer be 00 all the way, with no one binary codes to be found as far as investors. Teach this nation that wealth can come in, be embedded into thin air, and we can cancel finance out of thin air. If this nation doesn't respect the rest of the nations on earth, and they're too greedy for their own good, they're a gluttony of greed on the world stage, then our allies will hold Trump accountable. And the global south, along with Western Europe and Eastern Europe, as well as the global south. See, all nations wants to sit at the table of world leaders and their sovereign nations as permanent members to make up the rules of the world-based rules as every nation feels fit by voting their consciousness as sovereign nations. But there's one dictatorial nation that wants to hegemonically bend the world to their whims in that Washington Mount. So I have to vet out the whole government and a reformation in order to get them to accept the new world order of all nations being considered equal, in a multipolar world order where all nations are equal when it comes to making the world-based rules. So I'm here fighting this one hegemonic demonic power. So I believe that Britain, France, Russia, and China, and the rest of the nations on earth agree with me. So it's time for the global nations on earth to dry up the liquidity in the stock exchange of New York. And to Washington, D.C. realize that it can be a dictatorial hegemonic power over the rest of the nations on earth. America is going to learn the hard way. Y'all can't be the hegemonic dictatorial rulers of the world. Every nation have their sovereign rights to be adhered to equally as sovereign nations within the United Nations.